Independent thought, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We're not going to get to zero risk. But at that point, when people are fully vaccinated, mingling with a family that's not, there's really a very, very low risk that anything bad is going to happen.
There you go. That's life right there. Life is about risk, right? I mean, isn't it? It's the calculated risk. A little bit. It's a calculated risk in life. You're never going to get to zero. If you think zero is where we have to get to before we can get back to a normal way of life, we're screwed because we're never going to get there. You look at a few things. You look at the hospitalizations, very important. The rising cases, and we're seeing cases rise, and some people are very worried about that. But this happened in Israel as well. They had rising cases, but the hospitalizations were low right after they started giving vaccines and getting everybody vaccines because people were turning back to normal. And then eventually those cases amounted to nothing as far as hospitalizations and deaths. And all of a sudden, it was squashed. But if zero is what we're looking for, that's going to be scary because we're not going to get there, at least not anytime in the near future. So you make your choices. Now, for some people out there, they want, you know what? I want everybody vaccinated before we get back to life. Sorry. You live your life. And I don't care if you get vaccinated or don't. I'm going to do what's best for me and mine. You should do the same or whatever you feel is best. We get on with our lives. You accept the risk or you don't accept the risk and say, I'm just going to do this. That's the way it should be. We shouldn't be beholden to people who don't want to get vaccinated. I think that's ridiculous. And you hear some places out there that are like, well, if people don't get vaccinated, and you already hear, well, now maybe the kids should get vaccinated first before we could get back to normal. No, it's two things. Vaccinations and people that have been infected. We count them both. They are the same in many cases. You've had it, you survived. Based on that, you've got the antibodies. You count as somebody who has essentially some immunity to this, which some places aren't counting those. They want everybody to be fully vaccinated. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. You need to count those. Getting back to normal is what we want. There's ways of doing it. We're never going to do it alone by vaccinations.
I do think we can do a lot more. It's not just small family gatherings. We can have friends over. We can have probably larger gatherings indoors, especially if everybody is vaccinated.
Yeah. You live your life. That's it. I know what they're trying to do with their doctors. This is what they're supposed to be doing. Their first and foremost thing is the health and well-being of individuals. They take an oath for that. That's fine. For me, I'm going to live my life. What's best for me? I naturally distance anyways because that's just kind of who I am. But it's about what's best for you. You take the precautions. You live your life. If they tell you, we don't think there should be people over, unless there's only 5 or 6 or 7 people, you know what? If you want to have a party and you're vaccinated or you're not vaccinated and you feel that this is what you think you can do, then do it. I don't know about you, but I don't want the government in my business. Who I can and can't see, what I can and can't do. You know that, and I know that. Drives us crazy. We tried to do the right thing because we do respect and care for our neighbors and our friends, and that's a good thing. But at some point, you also have to live your life.
Even by July 4th, my expectation is that some proportion of Americans will have chosen not to get vaccinated, so they're still going to be at risk. And we probably should avoid those sort of large indoor gatherings where we know the virus tends to spread more efficiently.
If somebody chooses not to get vaccinated, that's a choice they made. Fantastic. You made that choice. You've accepted the risk, and we're moving on with our life. It's that simple. You accept the risk. This is where I wish states, led by their governors, as well as the president, would come out and say, look, this is the jumping off point. We get here, and everybody's had a chance to get vaccinated. They've opened up in every state and given everybody the opportunity. And you've had more than just, hey, we opened it up to everybody 2 weeks ago or a week ago. But it's been several weeks since everybody's had the opportunity to get 1 or 2 shots. And people have said, you know what, I'm not going to do it. At that time, they've accepted the risk. So that means we move on with ourselves. And that's a good thing. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. All of that going on as we still debate that. Yes, the Republicans this weekend, along with several other media people and even some Democrats, have gone down to borders across the nation and throughout the Southwest to take a peek at what's going on down there, because it is real. It is an issue, and it's not just a Republican thing. And this is not one of those situations where this is all Biden's fault. I'm sorry. It's his 35 years of just neglect and, using, cheap labor and the potential to one day potentially have an opportunity potentially to have more voters and to bring it. This is what this has been. 35 years in the making. 35 years. So when I hear people say, oh, well, this is all, no, it's not all Biden's fault. It wasn't Trump's fault. Right?
In Donna, Texas, kids packed closely together, laying on the floor, separated by plastic pods.
They don't have beds. They're lying down on the floor. They're right next to each other. They're touching each other. Yeah. So it's not 6 feet or even 3 feet. They're next to each other. They're all covered in reflective emergency blankets. And they're just being placed in these detention facilities. It is inhumane.
And that's a lot of politicking, because what happened? Well, Trump got destroyed and hammered for all of those things. Rightly so, with the zero tolerance. You come here, we separate the kids immediately. That to me was unnecessary. But the rest of the stuff, it was zero tolerance. And the Republicans are trying to send a message. Well, wait a minute here. You guys went down there. You're not letting the media see. Seems like something's a little bit fishy here. Everybody's frustrated. It needs to be dealt with. This is what politics looks like. Go down there, scream and yell. We need to fix the border. We know that. We need to fix the border. We have a hole in the ship. The ship is taking on water, and everybody's trying to figure out politically what's the best thing for them on what's going on inside of the boat, when the first thing we need to do is take care of what happened outside the boat so we can fix the leak and go from there. Nobody wants to do that, though. That's the politics. This right here is the politics of defining the other side, the politics of raising money and profile. This isn't bringing awareness of what's going on in the plight of people that are coming from Central America, South America, Haiti, and several other nations coming over here. Right now, one of the reasons our people... And I try to explain this to some people who don't quite get it. Over the last several years before this, it was just easier to fly here on a visa, right? You fly here on a visa and you just end up staying. And that was huge. We need to fix that too. The difference is we know, okay, we've got a check and a name and a scan and a ticket. Where you are, that's a different story. But that was always kind of, you know what, let's not worry about that. That was becoming a huge issue as well. Because of coronavirus, that's virtually stopped. Not a lot of people are flying in and out. And the borders become that issue again.
I asked her where she was headed.
Maryland, Frederick. Maryland?
Maryland, she tells me, pulling out this laminated strip of paper from her pocket. Phone number of a family member written down. They met this 17-year-old along the way.
So none of you knew each other beforehand? No.
Just a teen, leaving Guatemala alone, no family here. He says he's been on foot, walking to the U.S. for over a month. I came here out of necessity, he tells me.
And that's sad. These are the things that are the humanization of the stories. We don't know what's going on in their world. For some of them, it is the violence. But violence isn't, is it political violence? No. It's necessity for a majority of them. It's necessity. Got to feed the family. Any one of us, given a situation like that, you would be foolish to say, oh, I wouldn't have done that. You would. If you had to feed your family, you'll do just about anything to feed your family. Anything. But it also goes back to, he's got a laminated card, or she's got a laminated card of somebody here in the States. Probably a cousin, or an aunt, or an uncle, or somebody they've probably met once or twice. Get over there, give them a call. It is a disaster, and it's getting worse. I cannot blame Biden fully for this. Now, He has not done anything to slow it down. And yes, Trump, as far as people are concerned, a lot of these people that are coming here right now, they're seeing the opportunity to get themselves here because he feels like Biden is more welcoming than Trump because he is. But this is 35 years in the making. Let's not forget that. 35 years in the making. And the policies are broken, and the ones that are put in place are never used.
We just met a mother.
Yes.
With her 5-year-old.
Yeah.
She was in tears.
Yeah.
Crossing the border. Yeah. What do you do?
I don't blame the mother and the daughter. I blame the policies we're creating. It's incentivizing people to take a long, dangerous journey.
Do you send that mother and her 5-year-old child back across the border?
Yes,
they should go back across the border after making this trek here, looking for a better life, looking for asylum.
There's a legal way to get here, and there's an illegal way to get here.
And it sounds like, oh, he's heartless. No, he's not heartless. He's being honest. Of course, you don't want to see somebody suffering. Who does? In saying that, if we don't enforce the things that we have laws, then what do we have laws for? We shouldn't be able to just pick and choose. We shouldn't, but we do. Because it's a political thing. There's plenty of gray area as far as they're concerned, but more importantly, for the politicians, there's plenty of green. And that's dollars. And with those dollars comes power. So why not let it be? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. So far, my bracket looks pretty delicious right now. Now, it sucked. All right. So when we started the whole bracket thing a couple weeks ago, I looked like I was a hot mess. First day, NCAA, I had lost it all. I had fallen apart. It was, yeah. Here I am now, though. Sweet 16. I have got a ton of teams in the Sweet 16. Down to now we're down to almost the Elite 8. And I've got most of them. I'm very excited. I went from having like a 50% win. I'm at 72% right now. 72%. And all of my Final Four teams still in it. What? Telling you guys, don't watch it. Just guess. That's all you got to do. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. And can we just say something? The Pac-12 was useless basketball this year. Awful. Played a game. Then they would be no games for like 3 weeks. And then it was one game. Then it was 2 games. They'd play outside their conference. And they have like 4 teams, I think, still left in it. 3 or 4. Oregon State, that they're like, look, we need 64 teams. You guys want to play? They're like, okay. That is awesome. Oh, man. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Home Title Lock. Protecting you. I'll tell you something about, the cyber criminal thing. I just don't think people realize the ease of which cyber criminals can operate. And Home Title Lock is one of those ones that is simply just, it's a no-brainer for them. Very little risk. They go in, they steal your title, they quit claim themselves your deed off your title, put everything in their name, saying that you sold them their house. You don't even know about it. Everything's public record, and you're not going to figure it out until it's too late. And when it's too late is when they've just exhausted and grabbed all the equity they could out of your home. And then what do you do? Well, with Home Title Lock, they're there to protect. They'll alert you to anything going on with your title. Even if it's something as benign as, hey, we need to add some more legalese. We forgot to cross a T and dot an I. They'll alert you to that. Protect your home now with HomeTitleLock.com. Get 30 days free protection. Register your address. See if you've already been a victim. Use HomeTitleLock.com, code radio. HomeTitleLock.com, code radio. HomeTitleLock.com, code radio. Chad Benson Show.
Deep states? No. Deep doo-doo? Yeah. The Chad Benson Show.
The most significant charge here, second-degree murder, effectively means he has to have intentionally committed an assault that led to the death. Not a murder, but an assault that led to his death. And now let's go to the lowest charge, which is the manslaughter charge. There it's just culpable negligence on his part that led to the death. And remember, with each one that led to the death becomes critical.
Dan Abrams right there talking about the Derek Chauvin case. It's going to be very interesting. Kicks off today. We were just talking about it off the air. It's just, how do you find 12 jurors who haven't made up their mind? These jurors have all, in some way, shape, or form, lied or played down their thoughts and opinions of this. This is no way. I mean, I'm sitting here, and if you ask me today, do I think he's guilty? Yeah. How would you put me on a jury? Now, I'm an open-minded skeptic. I always tell you guys that. But how do you put somebody like that on a jury? And there's several people that said, well, I've kind of made up my mind, but I'm willing to hear. You're willing to hear. And if you're the defense, the question of, again, how do you defend a case that is this widely known in a situation where everybody has some sort of an opinion that knows so much? And it's not like you could take away the OJ trial and stuff. People say they want to equate it to the same thing, or or even the Rodney King, is more, I guess you would say, in line with something that's this similar, because people saw it happen. Because you saw the video. Everybody's seen this over and over again.
They're going to say, look at what was in his system, fentanyl, other drugs. They're going to talk about his underlying heart condition. And most importantly, they're going to focus on the burden of proof here. They're going to say you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you have questions, if you have uncertainty, then that, the defense will say, has to be an acquittal.
I don't know. I mean, I look and I see it like everybody else, and I say, well, that has to be guilty. But in this day and age, I don't know. I don't know how the defense gets around the video. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The 1,300-foot-long Ever Given has been corrected by 80%, according to the Suez Canal Authority.
It's 100% now. It's floating around. It's floating around. It's floating around. The Ever Given, never given up, is floating around. $10 billion a day. $10 billion a day. There was some 400 ships out there going, I can't believe this guy crashed this thing. How hard is it? $10 billion a day. $10 billion. But now they are free. The Ever Given is free. And away they go. I was trying to explain to people what a big deal this was for a supply chain like this to be slowed down for these kind of days. $10 billion a day, that's just in lost revenue. Think about the amount of stuff that will now be affected, at least in the coming days. Oh, I never thought of it. No, most. We're just laughing. Like, this guy just totally ran this thing, kind of got a little sideways on it, right? I don't know what he was trying to do. Trying to back that thing up, but it turned out to be a nightmare. And now it is free. They said, let it be free. And the Ever Given is exactly that. It is free, which is good. Throughout Europe, this was a huge supply line and supply chain for things like the vaccination, things that were needed inside of there besides the goods. Not to mention things like oil and stuff of that nature. So this is a win for the Ever Given, having never given up. Don't ever give up.
If parents are vaccinated, they still do need to be concerned about their unvaccinated children playing together in groups. Is that right?
Yeah, the children can clearly wind up getting infected. When we talk about what you can do when you're vaccinated, you can certainly have members of a family, if the adults are vaccinated, and you're in the home with your child, you don't need to wear a mask and you can have physical contact. When the children go out into the community, you want them to continue to wear masks when they're interacting with groups from multiple households.
He is a Debbie Downer of epic proportions. Well, Chad, I'm just saying. No, I mean, he is. He's a Debbie Downer. He's absolutely a Debbie Downer. You know it. I know it. We don't have a vaccine for children. That may be a while. Would I let my kids get a vaccine? Yeah, I've got no problem with the vaccine. But I also look at the numbers and say this doesn't really affect them in any real way, shape, or form. So to me, it doesn't need to be. What needed to be protected were elderly people, people who are in compromised immune systems and people with comorbidities. At the end of the day, I think the average person fared with this thing pretty easily. Pretty easily. But still, here we are. Well, every time we turn around, I've got something to say. Let me tell you. It's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. This will happen, that will happen. Things will fall apart. You won't get this, you won't get that. If you get this, don't go outside. If you got it, don't get it. But if you do go outside, hide. Hide behind a tree. Don't go near a tree unless you're wearing a mask because it could get it. And it's just, I don't know what to do anymore. It's like you never have anything to say, Dr. Fauci, that seems to be worthwhile. It's always doom and gloom, triple caution, wear 8 masks instead of 1. It's just, it boggles the mind. It does. We go back to what Dr. Jha said.
We're not going to get to zero risk. But at that point, when people are fully vaccinated, mingling with a family that's not, there's really a very, very low risk that anything bad is going to happen.
There you go. I have the vaccine. I'm going to live my life. I've had it, survived it. I'm going to live my life. That's the way it should be, right? You just live your life. You take the calculated risk. We're a year on to this. We understand it a lot better. It's time for us to get back out there. It's time for us to start living our life. And the question still remains, too, about how this thing started. Earlier today, the WHO has essentially released its pretend findings.
We will read the report and discuss, digest its content and next steps with member states.
Yeah. That's the head of the WHO talking about, hey, the member states. Remember that. The member states are the people who throw tons of money into the World Health Organization. And in doing so, it's hard for them to come down on a member state if they've done something wrong because they're part of the membership.
All hypotheses are on the table and warrant complete and further studies from what I have seen so far.
Yeah, and they're saying essentially today during this is, it was animal to human. Never got out of a lab. Fauci even addressed that.
When you think about the possibilities of how this virus appeared in the human population, obviously there are a number of theories. The issue that would have someone think it's possible to have escaped from a lab would mean that it essentially entered the outside human population already well adapted to humans, suggesting that it was adapted in the lab. The alternative explanation, which most public health individuals go by, is that this virus was actually circulating in China, likely in Wuhan, for a month or more before they were clinically recognized.
Yeah. No, nobody's buying it. You know it and I know it. Last week, we had Jamie Metzel on. Works with the World Health Organization, amongst many other things. Super bright guy. This is the guy who's got doctorates from Oxford, right? He's got his law degree from Harvard. This is not an idiot. And he is an advisor for the World Health Organization. He has, along with several other high-profile scientists, asked some serious questions about the World Health Organization, and they have a different idea of how this thing started.
We were talking about a bat coronavirus from a horseshoe bat. Those bats are in the south of China, 1,000 miles away from Wuhan. What they don't have in Wuhan in the middle of winter is bats flying around. What they do have is China's only level 4 virology institute with the world's largest collection of bat coronaviruses that's doing highly controversial research. Let's just say that this pandemic comes from an accidental lab leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Yeah. And he also talked about in 2012, they, being the Chinese, sent several miners, I think it was 6 of them, to a place 1,000 miles away from Wuhan to help clean up an old, I think it was a copper mine. And in doing so, all 6 of them got sick with something. Everything points to an early coronavirus. Their DNA, all of the stuff, they collected everything, samples, the whole 9 yards, and 3 of the 6 died. The other 3 survived. All of the stuff disappeared off the website. Jamie Metzel talks about everything disappeared off the website. The minute this thing, they knew it was out. All because it's like an open source website that all countries who are part of the World Health Organization and have, skin in the game when it comes to virology and stuff like that have poured money into the Level 1 lab. So, it's like an open source. We're able to go in and look and see everything was scrubbed or you couldn't get to it. Gordon Chang, who we're going to talk to a little bit later, he points out the fact that he doesn't think it's a weapon per se leaked, but he said once it got out, then it became the weapon because, like everything, China covers it up. I don't believe the World Health Organization. I don't believe it at all. I don't believe them one bit. I don't believe China one bit. Do not believe them one bit. And Fauci's like, well, this is the way. No, sorry. I'm not buying any of that stuff. Whatever he's selling, I'm not buying. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from you, each and every one of you. We have some fun stuff coming up. We got the new Muppets. It's very interesting. And, you guys are going to love this. Cinderella's been canceled in Minneapolis. Wait till you hear why. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program, MyPillow. Yep, MyPillow. But Chad, he's crazy. He may be, but his stuff works. And that's what I tell everybody. Look, I love his stuff. He's got the towels. I use all of his stuff. I've got slippers. And it's awesome. The MyPillow stuff is incredible. It's comfortable. It's soft. It's amazing. Right now, you can get, are you ready for this? A couple things. 2 sets of towels. 60-day money-back guarantee, 10-year warranty, super absorbent. It's awesome. It's very comfortable to use. I love them. I've always enjoyed, like I said, his stuff is great. And they're giving you a chance to try it. You don't like it. You go, you know what? I don't like any of this stuff. I'm going to send it back. Boom. No questions asked. Get your money back. 60-day money-back guarantee. Try it for yourself. Amazing. 2 sets of towels. 2 sets of towels for the price of 1. 60-day money-back guarantee. You will love them. You get hand towels. You get regular towels. You get washcloths, the whole 9 yards. It's simple and easy. Go to MyPillow.com. Use promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Running with scissors sounds great compared to this.
Say what?
Godzilla vs. Kong's posted a pandemic record international opening with $121.8 million from 38 markets over the weekend. Almost 60% of that came from China. The movie opens nationwide and drops on HBO Max Wednesday.
It's been a hell of a day.
Bob Odenkirk's action thriller Nobody opened this weekend too, grossing $6.7 million domestically.
Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, A- CineScore. I'm going to go see that. That I will. But I will be seeing, Jack's out here, so we've got a big movie day planned. I haven't been to a movie since I looked at it. It was February, 9th last year. So that is insane for me, considering I see, again, on average, and we're probably about 30 movies a year on average. Some years I'll see 25, some years I'll see 40. But I haven't seen a movie since then, and I will be seeing Kong versus Godzilla in the theaters. And you know, the whole thought process for me about going to a movie, just take away the coronavirus, right? Just for a second. Pretend it doesn't exist. It's hard for a lot of people to do that. But some movies are meant to be seen in a situation where you've got the giant screen, the big sound system, the trailers before, the anticipation, the popcorn, the excitement around it. This is one of those movies. Other movies, you're like, yeah, you know what? I can see that at home. Like, I want to see the Bob Odenkirk movie really, really bad. I really want to see it. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I could see it at home. And that's one of those things where me living so far from where I work, on my Thursday nights when I would normally stay up here, I would go and see a movie and stay up here at a hotel because I live 65 miles away. So rather than getting up the next day at 2 in the morning or 2:30, I could maybe get up at 3:30 to get into work to do stuff. That's because that was the thing that I enjoyed. That's the kind of movie I could do that to. But for sure, King Kong versus Godzilla. I will be going to that. It's going to be awesome. It is going to be awesome. Oh, yeah. Who wins? I don't know. Somebody will. Now, Cinderella's been canceled in Minneapolis. I know. Can't believe it either. Nobody's ever seen it. May never get to the stage.
What shall we dream of? An invitation to the ball, I guess.
Suburban Minneapolis Dinner Theater has scrapped plans for a production of Cinderella because the cast was mostly white. Instead of putting on the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, the theater company cited its ongoing commitment to diversity. The cast did not align with its work toward equity and inclusivity. Chanhassen Dinner Theater will make its next production Footloose.
Which is totally, by the way, if you've seen the movie, I saw Footloose, I'm like, this is a diverse cast. So stupid. Look, diversity should be natural, right? It should be organic. It should be real. I got zero problems with that. What if I go, all right, we're going to have a play, we're going to put it on, and who comes and auditions? What if it's 95% white? Okay, well, what if it is? Well, sorry, you can't do it. I have to let you guys all down. We can't do it because not enough people of color showed up. What if people of color show up, and some of them are very good. Some of them are great. Well, that's good too. In this sense, should this be? How do you do something where you're looking around and thinking to yourself, okay, we want diversity, we want inclusion, right? We want all of those things, but in saying that, this is what this is. So this is all that showed up. You can't force an issue. But people will. So rather than just going, we're going to do this, we're going to be like, nah, we're not going to do it. Maybe there would be more inclusivity and inclusion if you had Muppets that were black.
Sesame Street is introducing 2 new black Muppets as part of its initiative to tackle racism.
Things on the outside, like our skin color, our hair texture, our noses, our mouths and eyes, make us who we are. Many people call this race. But even though we look different, we're all part of the human race.
Yeah, all part of it. I'm like, do we need black Muppets? I mean, we've got blue ones, red ones. Not enough yellow ones. We've got, there's all kinds of different colored ones. But this is what they're trying to get the inclusivity. It starts at a young age, right? Like, and I don't know too many kids are calling for this. I think they just want to be entertained. It's a puppet. It's a Muppet. I get it, but it's. And first of all, you said black Muppets. So by saying that, isn't that rude?
Elmo wants to know why Russ's skin is brown.
Oh, I know why, Elmo. My mom and dad told me. It's because of melanin. Right, Dad?
That's right.
Melanin? Oh, what's that?
Melanin is something that we each have inside our bodies that make the outside of our bodies the skin color that it is. It also gives us our eye and our hair color.
Oh, and our fur color?
Yes, that's right. Exactly, Elmo.
Yeah, that's right. My fur color? Well, I'm red. What's wrong with me?
I don't know, Elmo.
No, come on, tell me what's wrong.
You're a ginger, Elmo.
Oh, goodness me.
And you're a little bit of a creeper as well.
Oh, what do you mean?
I think we know what we're talking about.
No, tell me.
Well, you know, with the thing and the kids, you.
Oh, stop that.
I'm just saying. That's what I heard. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Oscar the Grouch has to be next because he's just not nice. He's just not nice. He's got to be next. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We know that there's still not full coverage of this vaccine, and that's evidenced by the surge in hospitalizations that we're seeing in Michigan. And what's even more worrying is that, the hospitalizations that we're seeing are in that 30 to 49 age group.
You're going to get a spike. You are. You're going to get a spike as we return back to a way of normalcy. You're going to get a spike as we move back to what we would consider a pre-pandemic normal way of life. Some states are going to get there quicker than other states. My state, Arizona, we were awful at this. We were good at catching it. Let's not pretend we were. There were times when we were the worst. And I'm not talking about the worst in the country. I'm talking about the worst in the globe. There was nobody worse than we were at catching this. In saying that, it spread enough that we achieved some little form of immunity. Not a ton, but you couple with that with shots, vaccines, you get to a point where you're sitting at the nearest the herd immunity, which is where we're all trying to get to. Other states struggled, continue to struggle with getting it, continue to struggle with how they distribute vaccinations. And as a nation, we have done an amazing job at distribution, by and large, across the country with vaccines. Other nations are struggling. Why? Because they're trying to do it in a way where they have all these chefs inside of a kitchen who want what? They all want to run the show. They all got ways that they think are going to get the shots in the arms of their people fast. That's the European Union. The European Union has struggled big time with this, and they're continuing to struggle from this, and they will continue to struggle with this until they finally decide we're just going to do it. Then you look over there and you've got, the UK who decided, hey, we're going to get out of the European Union because we don't want people in Europe to decide the fate of what's going on here. We don't want to always have to turn around to the European Union and say, can we do this? Can we not do this? And that's a lot of what the European Union was about. So what ended up happening? They're doing a much better job. We here struggled mightily. Some of that was the fact that politics plays a huge part of it. Even, Dr. Birx last night was on 60 Minutes, talked about that.
Well, I look at it this way. The first time we have an excuse, there were about 100,000 deaths that came from that original surge. All of the rest of them, in my mind, could have been mitigated or decreased substantially.
It's possible. But we live in a world where we have our freedoms. And we had pushback. And then it became political. Would this have looked different, say, in Trump's first year? Would this have looked different in Trump's second year? It might have. It might have looked completely different. And the reason is because the politics wouldn't have been there the way it became political. But through all of that, we lost lives. We had issues. We had political battles. And then once we got to the point where the vaccinations were out there, ready to roll, we went to work and administered them at a high rate of speed. And we're continuing to do so. But it doesn't mean that tomorrow we're going to be in a normal state. Some states will get there much faster. Florida's just decided they're going to live life normally. Texas is trying to do the same. Here in Arizona, we're kind of at that point where it feels, outside of the mask scenario, feels kind of normalish. Some states have a further road and mountain to climb.
We're not going to get to zero risk. But at that point, when people are fully vaccinated, mingling with a family that's not, there's really a very, very low risk that anything bad is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you want to mingle with a family that's not and you've been vaccinated, live your life. It's like, that's the whole point of being vaccinated, is you put yourself into a situation where you're protected against it. Well, you could, right? Like, anything is possible. You're not even 100% guaranteed not to catch this, even with the vaccine and 2 shots. I've had 1 shot and I've had the coronavirus. So you're not guaranteed to not get something just because you've got all these. But those are the calculated risk you need to have. And it's about getting back to what people consider. This is no, it's not the new normal. When somebody says that, you say no. Normal is normal. This isn't new normal. This is a moment in time that is annoying, that is pisses everybody off. And the mask thing is the thing that is absolutely drives everybody crazy. But this is not the new normal. We're not going to live our lives in masks and social distance. It's not possible. We're not built that way as human beings.
I do think we can do a lot more. It's not just small family gatherings. We can have friends over. We can have probably larger gatherings indoors, especially if everybody is vaccinated.
Yeah. So wait, I can't have 50 people over that are all vaccinated? Just curiosity, Dr. Joe. Why can't? So I got 50 people. All of us have been vaccinated. 100 people, 200 people. The majority of us, 95% of us have been vaccinated and or have had it, so they've got antibodies. Tell me why that can't happen. Just, I'm curious about the whole thing. Why that can't happen. Why? Live your life. Calculated risk. It's that simple. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Derek Chauvin case. The police officer who knelt on George Floyd. His case gets underway today. You've got the usual people that are out there doing what they're doing because it's an opportunity for them to increase their life. And you know who I'm talking about, right? The Reverends like Mr. Sharpton.
Chauvin is in the courtroom,
Chauvin.
But America's on trial. America's on trial to see if we have gotten to the place where we can hold police accountable if they break the law.
Which we should do. We should do. Absolutely. His name's Derek Chauvin. So we should hold police accountable. If you broke the law, you should be held accountable, whether you're an officer or not. I think everybody knows that. Once again, an opportunity to raise your profile. You come out there. This isn't about George Floyd or Derek Chauvin. This isn't, America's on trial. What is America on trial for? We're always on trial every day. Well, for all the bad, for all the atrocities. Look, every culture in history has done something to another culture, has done some bad. I live in the moment that is here and now. And this trial is going to take place. And the world is going to watch to see what takes place. What's going to happen? How do they come about defending it? Where, let's be honest, pretty much everybody on that jury probably has some sort of preconceived idea of whether or not they find this person guilty or innocent without ever hearing anything about the actual stuff that took place on that day that led up to that situation. That they've not seen the whole video. They've seen the video. But you'd be lying to yourself. It's like, yeah, if you've not seen it and don't have some sort of like I'm biased in a certain way, I'm willing to listen, but based on what I've seen so far, this is what I find.
They're going to say, look at what was in his system, fentanyl, other drugs. They're going to talk about his underlying heart condition. And most importantly, they're going to focus on the burden of proof here. They're going to say you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you have questions, if you have uncertainty, then that, the defense will say, has to be an acquittal.
Has to be an acquittal. Absolute must. If it's this, this, and this. But there's so much that goes into it. Him having fentanyl didn't mean that he died from a heart issue. Him having these issues that, with his heart and the problems he's had before, hypertension, high blood pressure, didn't mean, and they're going to explain away, hey, let me tell you something. What Derek Chauvin did, he didn't, he should be tried for manslaughter, not murder. Not the things that he's charged with. Manslaughter.
The most significant charge here, second-degree murder, effectively means he has to have intentionally committed an assault that led to the death. Not a murder, but an assault that led to his death. And now let's go to the lowest charge, which is the manslaughter charge. There it's just culpable negligence on his part that led to the death. And remember, with each one that led to the death becomes critical.
Yeah. That's why they've got second, third, and manslaughter. Let's just hit them all. Because, when you look at the O.J. trials, a perfect example where the battle began with the O.J. trials. So how wasn't he guilty? Because they overreached and overcharged. They wanted to go for premeditated. Based on the evidence, you weren't going to get that. If you'd have went for second or third degree, you probably would have got it. But based on the evidence of what you asked for, it's the same thing with what took place in the Rodney King. Way they went after the four officers that we all saw doing something horrific many of it was like, did they use their batons correctly? Stuff like that, where you're like, well, they did. I mean, that's happening. And then you paint a picture of how bad this other person is. And so that's the battle. And I wouldn't want to be on that jury. I don't want no part of that. I just don't know how they found 12 people who have no opinion, really, of this. You have to have some sort of an opinion. Doesn't mean that you can't change your opinion, but you have to have some sort of opinion. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Going to have Gordon Jang join us at the bottom of the hour. If you don't know who he is, kind of the man, if you will, an expert on China. Talk about China. Everything China, where they're going, where they want to go, and how are we going to respond to any of the things that they're doing, because they're flexing their muscles. Yes, we're dealing with coronavirus and we're hyper-focused on that, but while the world does that, China is flexing their muscles. Raycon, best earbuds around. Played a lot of golf this weekend. I tend to do that a lot. Had my Raycons on all day yesterday, relaxing as I'm playing golf. It's just great. And it was whipping. The wind was whipping. Didn't hear it. Felt it, obviously. Doesn't offer me a protective shield. Felt it, but it didn't hear it. And I love that. Took a couple phone calls when I was out there. They could hear me. I could hear them. 6 hours of talk time, seamless Bluetooth pairing, money back guarantee. And you try these things. Tell me they're not the best. When you put them in, you realize there's a difference between, the ones with stems and the ones with wires. I've had every one you could think of. And I will tell you this right now. Nothing compares, as our friend Sinead said, to these. She didn't say about that, but still. Try them yourself. Raycons. Buy Raycon.com/Chad. Start well under $100. Save you an extra 15%. Buy Raycon.com/Chad. Buy Raycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending.
What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending?
All right, let's take a look and see what's trending. Derek Chauvin, George Floyd, trending. The trial starts today. It's going to be interesting to see how both of them come out of the gates when it comes to the defense and the prosecution. Everybody's going to be looking at the jury. So it is going to be very interesting. And I was just telling producer Phil and I were just talking. The biggest part of this is going to be your medical examiner versus our medical examiner. Who sells it the best? Because if the medical examiner for George Floyd, who they'll bring in their own independent expert, if he says this person, George Floyd, died because of this, strangulation, and goes through it, and you believe that, then you're going to be like, whoa. If the medical examiner says, hey, his heart gave out, yes, there was some issues, but so much of that was his heart gave out, he was on fentanyl, this caused a domino effect, that's going to be the defense and prosecution to me, in my mind. Ever Given apparently is free, refloated. $10 billion a day is what that ship caused losses. $10 billion for being stuck in the Suez Canal. Dr. Burke's trending because she was on 60 Minutes last night. Lil Nas X and his Satan shoes, right? That supposedly features a drop of human blood. He teamed up with New York streetwear company Mischief to create and sell 666 Satan shoes made from Nike Air Max 97s. Nike denied being involved in the shoe line's development, saying we do not have a relationship with Nas X or Mischief. So there's that. Apparently has a bronze pentagram and an inverted cross and a drop of human blood. There you go. A pair of shoes are expected to sell for $1,018, a reference to the Bible's Luke 10:18 that reads, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. So you've got that going for you. Go on out and grab some of those, kids. My God, I swear. That is just, where'd they get the human blood? It's from all the little kids that are making it in China and the sweatshops. It's some of their blood that is dripped out onto the Nike shoes. So that's where you get that. And, of course, the NCAA tournament is trending as well, as my bracket looks better. The longer we go, my bracket looks better and better. Gordon Chang's going to join us straight ahead. I would say arguably the best at what he does. And what he does is talk about China. He knows China. He understands China. He's lived in China. He's going to break it down for us and what China's trying to do. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We're going to deal with China effectively. We're going to invest in American workers and American science. The future lies in who can, in fact, own the future as it relates to technology, quantum computing, a whole range of things, including in medical fields. We're going to invest in medical research, industries of the future, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotech. China is out investing us by a long shot because their plan is to own that future.
Yeah, they've got plans. That's for sure. I've always said it. I continue to say it. China's in it to win it. They're in it to win it. Biden addressed that yesterday. Not only that, but obviously what's going on in North Korea, but China is the Red Dragon. Red Dragon is growing. They are trying to win the world, dominate the world. That is their goal. We joked about, Bill Maher has been saying it, they're not worried about Dr. Seuss. They think this stuff is stupid. They think this stuff is childish. They've got millions of people locked up.
We are going to hold China accountable to follow the rules, whether it relates to the South China Sea or the North China Sea or the agreement made on Taiwan or a whole range of other things. Americans value the notion of freedom. America values human rights. We are founded on that principle. No American president ever backed down from speaking out of what's happening in the Uyghurs, what's happening in Hong Kong.
He put the Uyghurs last because he's like, all right, I'm going to screw this one up. Yeah, no, nobody should. But China doesn't care. See, the thing is we live in a world now where feelings and caring matters so much that's what leads. They are in a world where they want to dominate and win. They're thinking about not only today, but tomorrow and the future in ways that we're just not. I always use the analogy, it's Clubber Lang, right? It's Mr. T, Clubber Lang. He's in working out. They're at 5 a.m. and working out in the gym all day and then fighting. And then, Rocky Balboa's out just, doing his thing and has kind of got fat, dumb, and happy. Well, we need to go back to the Rocky Balboa afterwards. It's time to get our stuff together. It is. Absolutely. Because he is saying it.
China has an overall goal to become the leading country in the world, the wealthiest country in the world, and the most powerful country in the world. That's not going to happen on my watch.
I don't know if it will or won't happen on his watch. And I don't know what China is up to, not only short term, but long term, including the people. Is it about military? Is it about just financial side of things? Or is it all of us? Joining us now on the phone, the man who probably knows more about China than anybody else, Gordon Chang. China. Said it for a long time. I'll continue to say it. They are who we should be paying attention to. They are the, if you will, the other one in the room when it comes to King Kong and Godzilla. There's us, King Kong, and then there's potentially Godzilla. And those are the two big beasts who stand atop of the mountain, and they want to be the king of that mountain. Joining us now is somebody who probably knows more about China up and down than anybody else out there. Is the author of The Coming Collapse of China, and you can follow him along at Gordon G. Chang on Twitter. All right, Gordon, I think it's safe to say we're pretty much it, right? Like, this is it. This is the battle of the two giant monsters, and it feels like China is definitely in it to win it.
Well, certainly. China not only wants to win it, every country competes with each other. They want to change the international system. They want to junk all of the rules. They want to own everything. And, it's not just planet Earth they're talking about. Chinese officials are saying that if they get to the moon and Mars first, they want to exclude everybody else. They want to make it part of the People's Republic of China. So this is ambition on a scale that we've never seen.
That's terrifying. It is. So when you talk about the system, and I think everybody thinks, oh, it's all hyperbole. It's not real. No, the reality is, and I continue to say this, they have 3 million Uyghurs locked up. They are doing everything in their power to become energy independent. Their whole thing is they want to win economically and scare everybody with the military might. And like you said, change the system. For an American, what does that look like if you're changing the system?
Well, it means that they believe that the United States should be a colony of China. We have what's called the Westphalian International System. It's been in place since 1648, Chad. This is, we're recognizing the sovereignty of states that compete and cooperate. China wants to get rid of that. They want the system where Chinese emperors ruled what they called Tianxia, or all under heaven, which means that everybody owed allegiance to the Chinese court. I don't want to be a colony.
No, I don't think anybody wants to be a colony. Especially of a country that is what? I mean, you look at China, and it scares me at times, Gordon, that here, not because I think our military and our government kind of get it, but we allow politics and wokeness to get in the way of many things. But I feel like China's playing for keeps. They have a plan that has been around for centuries, and they're continuing to grow on that plan. And we're not taking it as seriously as not only maybe in our government, but society as we should.
Yeah, I don't even think our government is taking it seriously. I think that there are some people in the Biden administration who understand the challenge. But when we heard President Biden respond to Anderson Cooper in the CNN town hall, talking about how China's crimes against humanity, how its genocide are just the result of different cultural norms, it was clear that the president doesn't understand the challenge from China. China in May 2019 declared a quote-unquote people's war on us. I don't think that the president of the United States understands that.
No, not at all. Joining me now, Gordon Chang. You guys follow him along. Gordon G. Chang on Twitter. Of course, he's the author of The Coming Collapse of China. So let's talk about the first meeting between the administration and China. That didn't go very well.
No, it didn't. And it didn't go well because the Chinese diplomats arrived not to have meaningful discussions with their U.S. counterparts. They came as part of an integrated propaganda campaign where essentially what they wanted to do was to dictate the terms of the relationship going forward. They were using race to try to divide Americans. Right after the first day of the meeting, the foreign ministry issued a statement talking about gunpowder, the smell of gunpowder. For China, that's evocative of the opium wars of the 19th century. It's meant to rile up the Chinese people, meant to evoke white supremacy. And then, in addition to all of that, we saw propaganda pieces actually specifically talk about America's relations in Asia as being all about, quote unquote, white supremacy. So what they're trying to do is to basically trigger race war. This is what the Japanese tried to do in the 1930s with their Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. This is extremely dangerous.
When you look at all of this, I mean, again, Gordon, I listen to you. I read your stuff. I try to delve in deeper because I look at the big geopolitical thing, and I think smarter people would realize if you take a step back and get that 10,000-foot view, that there is a coming battle, and it's going to be more nuanced and more trade and cyber. But what's the average person in China think of the West? The average person who's going to work in, everyday job like anybody else is over here as an accountant or in the computer world or at the fish market or as a teacher. What do they think of the West?
That's a great question, and really we don't know the answer because in a society which is increasingly repressive, no longer authoritarian, basically semi-totalitarian, we really don't know very much about what the Chinese think. But having lived there, basically people are people. They want to get by. They want to make sure they have a job, that they can take care of themselves and their kids. And there's a lot of cynicism about Communist Party propaganda. They like the idea that China's doing well, but they don't buy into what Xi Jinping, the Chinese ruler, is trying to do. So I think that it's people who just sort of want to get by and just hopes the government doesn't get in their way.
Well, isn't that what everybody wants? And that's what makes them, in many ways, kind of like us. And so you got the Biden administration. You have all of this stuff going on. Trump, under his watch, coronavirus got out. We talked to Jamie Meltzer last week, he's an author, and he works for the World Health Organization. He is a big virus guy, if you will. And he says he led and is leading the charge where he's like, I don't buy a word that China says. Now, he thinks it was an accident, what happened. But from the minute it got out, it all became essentially, China covering it up and lying about the origins of this.
Yeah, it's actually worse than that. We don't know the origins of this disease. I think it's probably an accidental release from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, but we don't know. But there is something that we do know, Chad, and that is that once this disease was released into the general population, Xi Jinping turned it into a biological weapon. He knew for at least 5 weeks, probably longer, that this was highly contagious, and yet he told the world it was not. At the same time, he pressured countries to accept arrivals from China when he was locking down his own country. By locking down China, he thought that he was stopping the spread of the disease. So that means by leaning on countries to accept passengers from China, he thought he was spreading the disease. And remember, he was doing this while he was lying about contagiousness. So the spread of the disease beyond China was deliberate, and that means that with 445,000 or so Americans who have died from this disease, they're the direct result of Chinese actions, and this was murderous.
What repercussions? I mean, I think that's, when I talked to Jamie last week, I said, Jamie, realistically, because we're never going to find out the exact origins. He thinks much like you, it escaped out of the lab because Barney Fife was mining it. And we should never have had, this place shouldn't have had the rating that it had after its failure with security. But he thinks that this thing's years old and that they've known about it for years. And it's scary to think that they're about protecting themselves and the rest of the world has to suffer, but nobody really wants to throw any repercussions out there.
Yes, and we have to do that because we have to establish deterrence. This is not the last disease that'll come from China, and we cannot allow Xi Jinping to think that he can spread another one. And to make this even worse, we know that the Chinese military is working on pathogens that will leave the Chinese alone and will attack everybody else. So the next disease from China could be a civilization killer. And when we talk about how China believes it should rule the world, people say, oh, that's impossible or ludicrous. But it's not impossible or ludicrous if every society has been laid low by disease and China has not. So that's why we need to establish this deterrence, which means really imposing costs on China that are severe, greater than the benefits it's received from spreading this disease beyond its borders.
What happens from here? I mean, you look out, let's flash forward 5 years. What's it look like? 4 years of Biden, and who knows what happens from there. But then we're in a situation where is China and where are we on that hill?
There could be any scenario as possible, including global conflict. This is really one of these very dangerous times. I think Xi Jinping sees, for various reasons, a closing window of opportunity. That means if he's going to achieve what he considers to be historical objectives, he's got to do it now. That means the 2020s are the decade of concern, as people have talked about. So I don't worry about China in the 2030s and the 2040s. A lot of people talk about China being so large then. The point is we got to worry about China in the here and now because this is when they're probably going to act.
Who's with us besides India and their disdain for each other? But I mean, that's a very much a local thing. But yeah, but who else is with us that would be like if push came to shove, they're going to side with us rather than China because so many people worship at the altar of money?
Australia, Japan, I believe India. Really, it's going to be difficult to know. Europe is sitting on the fence. I think eventually they'll tip over on our side. Canada is run by a very pro-China Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. So we really need to find friends in the region. I think ultimately we will look to our special relationship with Britain, but we right now are scrambling because this is an existential fight. It's a zero-sum game, as people don't want it to be, but it is. This is more dangerous than the Cold War, and so we need the friends that we can get.
Crazy. Love having you on, guys. Read his stuff, The Coming Collapse of China, and follow him on Twitter, Gordon G. Chang, at Gordon G. Chang. Gordon, thanks so much, man. Look forward to doing it again soon.
Well, thank you, Chad. I really appreciate this.
Thanks. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter, ChadBenson. It's The Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
The Suez Canal is a critical shortcut between Asia and Europe. Without it, ships would be forced to take a more expensive, more dangerous journey around Africa that could take 12 days or more. The financial losses here already colossal. About 10% of global trade passes through that canal, or about $10 billion every day.
Yeah. But all that being said, looks like things are sorted out. Still going to take some time. But the Ever Given seems to be given a second chance. That's what I said there. Producer Phil sent me he sent me an article. I can't read it on there. But let's just say this. Some adult stuff was on some of these boats, and so you may see a rise in prices. As well as several other things, like coffee, potentially vaccines, and other goods that could jump in prices in the coming days and weeks ahead, which is the kind of thing that you would expect in a situation like this. And nobody wants to go around that Cape because it does take longer. It is more perilous, not just for the natural side of things, but also for the side of things where you could have some other issues. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. George Floyd trial gets underway today. Already had a juror. Ixnade.
We have all 15 jurors are here, so we're kicking loose number 15, the last one chosen. And so we'll go with the 14 others.
And not because that person did anything wrong, just that they're surprised everybody showed up. Look, we're really surprised at you that everybody showed up. So we're going to kick you loose. Now, would you be happy? Would you be bummed? That's an interesting question because you're like, I don't want to be on that trial. But then you're thinking to yourself, well, you know what, though? I'm open-minded and I've got my crap together and I'm not an idiot. Maybe I should be on that trial. If you were picked, is it? And the next thing you know, you're out. Gone. Over. Finite. So you have 14 left. And it'll be, this is going to be here in front of us for the coming days and weeks. And we're going to hear all kinds of things about each other's past. Right? You're going to hear things about George Floyd's past and about Derek Chauvin's past and about how he did the job. And you're going to hear some good things. You're going to hear some bad things about both of them. This was about an incident that took place. For some people, the incident is pretty much cut and dry. He's guilty of murder because he killed him. For others, there will be more that they'll say, hold on a second, it wasn't him who killed him. It was a myriad of things. And that he's not guilty of murder. Instead, it is manslaughter. But we will watch. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter is Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This trial is going to provide evidence of whether we really believe it when we say we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equally.
That right there, Benjamin Crump, Derek Chauvin trial gets underway today. They've already sent one juror home, and not because the juror did anything wrong, just that they had the prerequisite 14. That person was the 15th. I was telling producer Phil, let's just take away what's going on in the trial, Matt, how big it is, but let's look at it from the jury standpoint and from what if one or two of these jurors get coronavirus? What if one or two of these jurors get really sick and then everybody is in a position where they have to shut this thing down again? Could you imagine that? If I was the judge, I would say, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pick you 15, maybe even do 16, 17. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure everybody is going to be vaccinated so we can get this thing going. I don't want to have a start, stop, and then start again, then stop. I don't want anybody, essentially, getting into this trial and then having the trial stop and then starting to think about it, talk about it, and then we have to do this all over again. I want it once for all and to be done. Period. Case closed.
Today starts a landmark trial that will be a referendum on how far America has come in its quest for equality and justice for all.
Yeah. I don't think anybody doesn't believe that there shouldn't be equality and justice for all, whether you're a police officer or not. We should have justice for all. What happens is the law gets involved. When the law gets involved, they start asking certain questions. If you go back and look at the trials throughout history, in particular over the last 20 plus years, that became massive trials that the world watched, 30 plus years, what you'll see is people who were acquitted of things where you thought they were guilty. The problem was there is too many of those things. The prosecutors overreached and underdelivered, meaning they were asking questions of a jury trying to prove a case out, which was not, in fact, the actual case that should have been proven out. And because of that, they got not guilty. Whether it was OJ, what took place with Rodney King and the 4 police officers, those things were one of those, trials that we all watched. We didn't see what happened in the OJ incident with Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. But what we did see was the trial. And the trial to the world was played out in front of the world. And what they asked for was something that the jury couldn't give because that's not what took place. They overpromised and underdelivered. When it came to the Rodney King case, once again, they asked for things that they shouldn't have asked for. And rather than going to certain things, they violated his civil rights. They got him on that trial on the federal side of things, but they didn't get it locally because they asked for things, overpromised, and underdelivered. Here, it's a little bit different. What they're trying to do is make sure that everything is on the table.
The most significant charge here, second-degree murder, effectively means he has to have intentionally committed an assault that led to the death. Not a murder, but an assault that led to his death. And now let's go to the lowest charge, which is the manslaughter charge. There it's just culpable negligence on his part that led to the death. And remember, with each one that led to the death becomes critical.
Yeah. The most important 2 people in this isn't Derek Chauvin, isn't the prosecutor or the defense attorney. The most important 2 people in this isn't George Floyd or his family. It'll be the combating coroner's report medical examiner from the city and the county, as well as the expert that they bring in that will go against what that coroner's report said. Those are going to be the most important things. Those 2, how they deliver that, what those reports says, and how you can get that across to a jury will say a lot. Yes, the video evidence is going to be extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. And if we were all sitting here right now and we said you have to give a guilty or innocent, I don't know too many people who are going to go, oh, he's totally innocent. I think we know that. As far as premeditated, no. Second or third degree, involuntary manslaughter, no. It's one of, to me, those 2 are going to be the ones that people look at. But if you're the defense attorney, you're going to bring somebody up who is going to talk about the fentanyl. You're talk about all of the things that he had wrong with him before that incident, and that could have also played a part in the death of George Floyd.
They're going to say, look at what was in his system, fentanyl, other drugs. They're going to talk about his underlying heart condition. And most importantly, they're going to focus on the burden of proof here. they're going to say you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you have questions, if you have uncertainty, then that, the defense will say, has to be an acquittal.
Yeah. So it'll play itself out. Do I think that he is going to be found not guilty? No, I don't. I do not think that. Do I think that he is going to get the maximum sentence? I don't know. I do think they'll find him guilty of one of the two murders, either second or third degree. But, you know, a lot of it, again, has to go back to how does the prosecution and defense play this? How much of the past will be brought up and be allowed to be in the court? Derek Chauvin, of course, his past will be relevant. Is he part of the Klan? Is he all of these things that, you know, evil? Or is he just a guy who went too far for whatever reason? Was he evil and bad? Did he have some knowledge of George Floyd? I mean, all of those things are going to be relevant because you're also trying to prove something else, that this guy went out there with the thought of doing damage to somebody. So we shall see. And George Floyd, they will try to bring his past up, saying, look, you know, Your Honor, he's had drug problems in the past. Fentanyl kills. He's got heart issues. He's all of these things. Every one of these set in motion a day that was horrible, where the domino effect took place. And that's why he died. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. Yes, kids, we are still talking coronavirus. It has not gone anywhere. Cases in some states are rising.
We know that there's still not full coverage of this vaccine, and that's evidenced by the surge in hospitalizations that we're seeing in Michigan. And what's even more worrying is that, you know, the hospitalizations that we're seeing are in that 30 to 49 age group.
Yeah. So they are rising and will continue to do so in some areas. It happened in Israel. In Israel, they saw a bump once people started getting vaccinated and started to return to normal life and be around people and get out there. What you're finding is you're going to have some of that. Now, some places, think about this, like, oh, you know, in Michigan, there's been a doubling. Well, if you don't have a lot of cases, right, then a doubling isn't really scary. It's terrible, you know, but it's all about selling the story. And you're going to have to get to a level when we get back to some normalcy where you're going to have to accept the fact that there is going to be some issues moving forward that are unavoidable as we get back out there. I think so many people would like to see zero. Zero is not an option.
We're not going to get to zero risk. But at that point, when people are fully vaccinated, mingling with a family that's not, there's really a very, very low risk that anything bad is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you get your shots and you feel comfortable, you do you. It should be that simple. Once you get your shot and you say, you know what, I feel good, I've had it, or you've gotten your shot, you felt like you've done your stuff, you make the decisions for yourself, right? That's the best you can do. Listening to people say, well, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, you've been doing those things all along. You just make the best decision for you and yours. And if you don't get a shot, you understand what the potential may be, and you go from there. It shouldn't be that hard. We make things harder because we bring politics into it. And when we start to bring politics into it, it goes south fast. It does. It's wrong, but true. You do what's best for you, boo. That's all you can do. It's finally free.
A colossal cargo ship blocking the Suez Canal and global trade has been set free. Salvage teams say they dislodged the Ever Given after 5 days of removing sand and mud and wrangling its bow from the bank. Tugboats now hauling the vessel through to the Great Bitter Lake for inspection. It's unclear when shipping traffic will return to normal, but nearly 400 cargo ships are waiting to cross. An estimated $50 billion of global trade held up since a sandstorm left the ship stuck sideways sideways in the canal last Tuesday.
Yeah, it's going to go to the Bitter Lake because everybody's bitter right now. So it looks like it's free. They're going to tugboat it away with Bodie McBoderson and Tugboaty McBoderson, and we'll see how that goes. But finally, we're back, and this was a big deal because dry goods, electronics, vaccine, and part of the domino effect is when all of these things are being held up or delayed because they're having to take in outside around the Cape, you have issues that will cause fuel, all kinds of it. There was like 400 boats just floating out these. It is huge. So this is a big deal, getting this thing free. But there's going to be, especially in Europe, but also here, you will see bump here and a bump there in certain things. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. And you're not going to notice until you go to the store and you go to purchase. Why is this thing so expensive? You're like, hey, do you remember when that thing? Yeah, that's why. We just didn't have enough. Or why can't I get this? Well, because of this. And you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Raycon's best earbuds around. Give you we're talking about the best earbuds. We're not talking about, are they good? No, they're incredible. Absolutely incredible. When I put my Raycons on, I hear the music like I've never heard it before. It's comfortable. The noise isolating fit, all of those things are amazing. You have better sound quality, better design, better bass, and better control. Comes with a money-back guarantee. You try it. If you don't like it, send it back. Say, I didn't like it. But you're not going to do that. You'll probably go, hey, you know what? I think I need some more of these. No stems, no wires, and a price that is amazing. Starts well under $100. Get your Raycons now. BuyRaycon.com/Chad. 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 Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
When you think about the possibilities of how this virus appeared in the human population, obviously there are a number of theories. The issue that would have someone think it's possible to have escaped from a lab would mean that it essentially entered the outside human population already well adapted to humans, suggesting that it was adapted in the lab. The alternative explanation, which most public health individuals go by, is that this virus was actually circulating in China, likely in Wuhan, for a month or more before they were clinically recognized.
So the World Health Organization did their thing, right? So they were coming out with the theory of what took place, how did this coronavirus came to be, and they came out with their reports. And first of all, they want to tell everybody, hey, member states, China is a member state.
We will read the report and discuss, digest its content and next steps with member states.
It's the head of the World Health Organization talking about this. But remember, China, they gave that big dog and pony show where the World Health Organization came over and they got zero real access to the lab. They got very little access to the data. They had their minders with them all the time. And it was a press briefing to everybody that China led and essentially said, we found nothing. And people raised a little bit of a red flag there.
All hypotheses are on the table and warrant complete and further studies from what I have seen so far.
Yeah. Translation, they don't even believe him. Now, we had Jamie Menzel on last week. Now, Jamie Menzel, you guys don't know who he is. Smart guy. You can go back to the podcast and check him out. But this is a guy who led a bunch of, was on 60 Minutes last night, led a bunch of scientists essentially saying, hey, we need to take a deeper look into how this thing originated. He, like I think most people think, it escaped from the lab. It wasn't nefarious, but it came nefarious once the cover-up started. But the actual act itself wasn't nefarious. And that's kind of where he believes it's come from, based on the things and the way that China has acted. And he talked about, hey, you know what they're saying, just it's not possible.
We were talking about a bat coronavirus from a horseshoe bat. Those bats are in the south of China, 1,000 miles away from Wuhan. What they don't have in Wuhan in the middle of winter is bats flying around. What they do have is China's only level 4 virology institute with the world's largest collection of bat coronaviruses that's doing highly controversial research. Let's just say that this pandemic comes from an accidental lab leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Yeah, and that's a huge possibility. So will we ever know the truth? No, never going to know the truth. You know that, and I know that. I think we can we can have our sit here and have our opinions and hypothesize about all of this, but we're probably never going to know the truth, and it's pretty simple. China stands in the way of said truth. 323-538-2423. Talk a little immigration and Georgia. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
In Donna, Texas, kids packed closely together, laying on the floor, separated by plastic pods.
They don't have beds. They're lying down on the floor. They're right next to each other. They're touching each other. Yeah. So it's not 6 feet or even 3 feet. They're next to each other. They're all covered in reflective emergency blankets. And they're just being placed in these detention facilities. It is inhumane.
Probably stopped by on his way to Cabo. Oh, gee, that's not very nice. Ted Cruz right there. Immigration's front and center. So this is what both sides need, right? Both sides need the monster. The monster that was, for the Democrats, was Trump, right? And they've got a lot of monsters that they love to fight. But Trump was the king. Because Trump not only was a monster, he was a monster that was front and center. He was a monster that got people talking. When it was immigration, Trump was easy to go after because people didn't like the way that he handled the border. The fact that he wanted to shut it down was mean and cruel. And you had a sympathetic audience in the media who loved to push narratives, and Trump is easy to push back against. Now, I didn't agree with some of the stuff that Trump did. I think we could all say, all right, we all had some misgivings. We did. But it was easy to go monster, bad, Godzilla right there. And the other side says, well, we got King Kong. King Kong's coming to fight. And that's the way it was. And it's frustrating because we do have an issue. But the issue is 35 years in the making. And we can debate whether or not this is right now exploding because of the current administration and its lack of caring for what's taking place at the border. I mean, I think that there's a problem there. But there's a lot more to it. And a lot more to it is lots of years, decades plus in the making.
I asked her where she was headed.
Maryland, Frederick. Maryland?
Maryland, she tells me, pulling out this laminated strip of paper from her pocket. Phone number of a family member written down. They met this 17-year-old along the way.
So none of you knew each other beforehand? No.
Just a teen, leaving Guatemala alone, no family here. He says he's been on foot, walking to the U.S. for over a month. I came here out of necessity, he tells me.
Yeah. It's there. It's in front of us. It's a real issue. And the Republicans are doing lots of things. One, they're raising money. They're bringing awareness. They're talking about the monster that is illegal immigration and whatnot. But it's not just Republicans, by the way. Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar, who is a very nice guy, but he's a Democrat, talks about what's happening at the border. Now, I'm here in Arizona, and we're seeing an influx and definitely a bump. We've talked about it, what's going on here. But Texas is seeing something wholly different. It is an absolute, it is a flood, a sea of humanity.
There's a large number of people coming across every single day. Over 5,000 individuals that they have only in the Rio Grande. And out of the 5,000 plus that they have at the Rio Grande, 65%, about 65% are unaccompanied kids. Some will be returned, but over 2,000 of them have been released into the United States without a notice to appear.
That right there is a Democrat, not just Republicans. And that's a Democrat who's got to deal with it. Why? Because it's in his home state. You know, it's easy if you're in D.C. Like, people are asking, well, where's Kamala Harris? You know, I thought she was taking care of this. She didn't want to be there. She doesn't deal with this. She's got other things she wants to deal with. She wants to play the game of politics. There's nothing here politically that is going to help her, and probably would only potentially cause more harm to her political world. And she's so close, potentially steps away, literally, from the presidency. She wants to be part of a solution that can make people look like heroes. This isn't one of those. This is a absolute disaster, but it is 3.5 decades in the making. But when you've got Democrats who have to deal with it because it's in their state saying we have a problem here, maybe you should pay attention. Maybe the Republicans weren't all wrong. Maybe there are truly issues here that need to be dealt with. And allowing people to come here and then releasing them is beyond insane. Catch and release was already bad enough. But now catch and, like, go ahead, have fun, it boggles the mind.
We just met a mother.
Yes.
With her 5-year-old.
Yeah.
She was in tears.
Yeah.
Crossing the border. Yeah. What do you do?
I don't blame the mother and the daughter. I blame the policies we're creating. It's incentivizing people to take a long, dangerous journey.
Do you send that mother and her 5-year-old
Absolutely.
child back across
Absolutely.
the border?
Yes,
They
you
should
do.
go back across the border
Absolutely.
after making this trek here,
You do not,
looking for a better life, looking for
Absolutely.
asylum.
There's a legal way to get here and there's an illegal way to get here.
Either we have laws or we don't. And we need to start enforcing them. But we need to come up with an easier way to get here, especially on a temporary basis. More enforceable laws that will actually be enforced. We have to do something, not just for America, but for the people that are making this dangerous trek, to give them hope, but at the same time, to give them a here are the rules. If you break these rules, you're done. Will we do that? Probably not. Why? Because, again, the monster feeds off money. And immigration's one of those things where you can raise a ton of money. You can talk about the monster on the other side and how you're the only slayer of said monster. So that's why you are perfect for the job. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Georgia, everybody apparently wants to cancel everything ever that's being done in Georgia. Ever. Like ever. For the voting rights bill that is seen to be evil and bad.
If we oppose what Speaker Pelosi is putting forward, that it immediately kind of devolves into an accusation that somehow we're supporting Jim Crow-like policies. That is an argument that is frequently coming from our Democratic colleagues.
Yeah, because it's easy. So that's what you do. So the whole thing is like, oh, it's worse than it's worse than Jim Crow, and it's racist, and that's easy to do. We have to look at things when it comes to our voting where people feel like, hey, it's comfortable to vote. I feel like my vote is safe. At the same time, not going crazy and overreaching. Well, people are going to have to go get an ID now. Well, there's 200,000 people who don't have an ID. Why don't you have an ID? What about you? You can get an ID. Well, you can't get a license. Never said you had to get a license. You can get an ID. You can get an ID. That is a thing you can do. Most states, if you're over the age of 18, you must have some form of ID. Well, Chad, they're not allowed to give food and drink to people in line. Well, no, you're not allowed to wear a Biden shirt or a Trump shirt and give out food and drink within 20 feet, I think, of the door. That's crazy, right? Like, that's just silly. Having an ID is important. And we're talking about carrying around a vaccine card, an ID, for God's sakes. This is, but it goes back to the minute you try to do something, you're evil, you're bad, and the easiest thing to do is you have some sort of phobia or racism. You're transphobic, you're homophobic, right? You're a racist. You're all of those. It's easy because, in theory, to a lot of people, that just shows you everything that you are, which is not true. You should have to have an ID to register to vote and to vote. If I have to have an ID, I have to have an ID to get on an airplane. I have to have an ID to buy cough syrup. Can you imagine that? Insanity. I had to show my ID to get my shot. I got zero problems with any of those things. Do they go too far? Some of it might be. And we can absolutely talk about those things because those things are important. But it goes back to every time you try to put some stuff in there, this is a protection of voting rather than a stripping voting rights away. But people will always see it. If you're on one side, it's like anytime there's a thought process of, hey, you know what, we're going to require people, if we're going to vote, to have an ID, it's, oh, that's evil and bad. How is that even bad? Because it disproportionately hurts people of color. Why? Because they can't get an ID? No, they can't get an ID. 99.99% of people who are, of age probably have an ID. And if something's that important to you, you'll figure out a way to get it. I don't care what color you are. I don't care who you love. But it goes back to, it's not about a solution. It's about the fight. It's about the battle. It's about the politics, because there's where the profit is. Some things should be put in place. Some stuff is absolutely overreach. The Republicans trying to figure out how they lost Georgia. Is it because everybody mailed stuff in? No, I think the reality is for Trump, he had serious issues in Georgia and a lot of other places. Biden didn't win this election. Trump lost the election. Plain and simple. And there were some things that went on that you look back and you say, well, that was a little funny business. Does it mean that the election was stolen? No, but you can ask, hey, you guys put stuff in place legally. People who are not elected officials went and did other things. You went against your state's constitution. That is an issue. Very much so. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Do love hearing from every one of you. Rough Greens. Give it to my dog, Doodle. Everybody around here at work says, does it really work? So I started giving out some bags here and there, and lo and behold, a bunch of people started signing up for Rough Greens. They're like, I can't believe how great it is. It is tremendous. It is a supplement. It goes on top of your dog's food. You sprinkle on there, and they eat up. Nom, 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 nom. They love it. It's got vitamins, minerals. It's got probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9. It's got all of these things that your dog's food is lacking. And it brings your dog's food to life. And it helps in so many ways. So my dog Doodle had horrific hips, arthritis, joint pain, fatty tumors. He is a year plus on Canine Vita Smart from Rough Greens. And he bounces like a puppy. He runs around with the other dogs. He is happier and healthier than he's ever been since I've had him. That can happen with you and your dog. Now, here's the thing. Rough Greens has said, you know what? Tell everybody they can try it before they buy it. It's that simple. All right? Roughgreens.com/Chad. You go there. RUFFgreens.com/Chad. You go there, and guess what? You pay for shipping. They're going to send you a free bag. Or call 833-MY-DOG-77, 833-MY-DOG-77. You pay for shipping. You get a bag for free from Rough Greens. Rough Greens, make any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
Get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
You will see that as Mr. Floyd is handcuffed there on the ground, he is verbalizing 27 times, you will hear, in the 4 minutes and 45 seconds, I can't breathe. Please, I can't breathe.
That right there, Jerry Blackwell. Founding partner and CEO, chairman of Blackwell Burke, serves national and trial counsel for several major corporations, and talking about the trial, the opening statements, things are going on as the Derek Chauvin trial gets underway. How much is the nation going to pay attention to? I think people will. I think people are going to pay attention to this for several reasons. First, can they convict a cop, a white officer? Secondly, what happens? What happens if it's a conviction but not what people want? Are we going to have riots in the street? Don't pretend that that's not something that people are going to be paying attention to, because it will be.
Chauvin is in the courtroom, but America's on trial. America's on trial to see if we have gotten to the place.
He's tough. He's tough to listen to. If you guys don't know who that is Al Sharpton, trying to raise his profile. America's on trial. Producer Phil, you're on trial. Did you know that? You were probably unaware. Completely
I was going to say, the trial will mess you up.
The trial will mess you up. So, if you're the defense, you know what you got to do. If you're the prosecutor, you've got something that says a lot.
Expect the prosecution to be focusing on that video and the videos, potentially. And they're going to talk about the fact that no matter what you think about the drugs or the underlying medical conditions, that what Derek Chauvin did was a substantial causal factor in the death.
So it may not have been 100% of the death. And I think if you're the prosecutor, you come out and you say, look, whether he died specifically of a heart attack or from his airwaves being crushed, the reality is this officer was the cause of all of those things. This officer took the situation, made it far worse, and because of that, the domino effect took place. And this is where we are. And he is guilty. Put it out there in so many ways that they come back with a guilty verdict. We shall see. We shall see. It's going to be very interesting. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Real world study. Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are not only effective against you getting sick and potentially dying, but it looks like up to 90+% effective against getting infected at all. Not just presenting, so like let's say you had your you'd basically be asymptomatic is what they're saying. So you'd be asymptomatic. But what they're saying is not even close. Now, according to this, 80% after the first doses. So you get a dose, right? After 2 weeks, you're 80% protected. After your second dose, you are 90+% protected in real world trials. Clinical trials, it's tough. Real world trials, and these are all based on healthcare professionals on the front line taking care of people who have this. 90+% of them did not get sick at all, did not test positive. It did the thing that it was supposed to do, not just keep you alive and essentially, even if you caught it to mitigate it, just you didn't catch it. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show Twitter. Check out Facebook. Grab the podcast where all podcasts are available. Top of that, check out the Instagram as well. Solid, fun day. We got you through it. I bet you we will do it again tomorrow. No, I guarantee it. You guys have a great day, a blessed day. Night-night, Jack.
This is The Chad Benson Show.